Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance. Today's tour review is going to be a pair of auto-adjusting tongue and groove pliers, and these are more specifically from Wiha. This is their 10-inch version or 250 millimeter. You can see that right there, and part number on these 32637. I ended up getting these at Lowe's, but I'll go ahead and show you the packaging here. Again, there's that part number 32637. Adjustable auto grip pliers, 10-inch, 250 millimeter. One thing, I guess, the things that you need to know on the back are the jaw capacity. 1.5 inch on round items, and then 1 9/16 on the hex. But the big thing that some people will typically ask is it does say it's designed by the standards by Wiha Germany, but manufactured in Vietnam. So a lot of their tools are made in Germany. These specifically, it says, are made in Vietnam. But like I said, I picked mine up at Lowe's. I ended up getting these for $7.50, along with a pair of the V-Jaw tongue and groove pliers. They're alligator type style right there, 10 inch as well, for $6 and something. So, and I feel like if any of us go into a store and we saw these for $7 and those for $6, you're going to buy them. You're going to buy them all day long. But the reason why I'm making this video is because normal price on these is $30. And even with that, at $30, once you jump up to the Knipex, you're looking at Home Depot. I think these are $56. On Amazon, they're anywhere in that 56 to 60 something range. I got mine a little cheaper than that, just waiting around on them. That's a little bit of a price jump. I would still probably pay the difference, and I'll show you why in a little while, between the 30 and the 50, just for my own sake. But what I think it gets into is on Amazon right now, these are like $17.50, and the Gearwrench ones that I reviewed for the 10-inch version is $16.50, so you're only paying $1 more for these, and I feel like these are way better than that of the Gearwrench, or also the Crescent. They look just like these Gearwrench. So I'll show you the features on this one compared to these two. I'll explain to you why the self-adjusting is super nice, and again, I've got reviews for those that kind of explain that as well if you want to check that out. And then I'll also share with you where they're not super nice to have, and the reason why you probably don't want a pair of them as your only pair, but they're also really good to have. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So starting out, looking at the self-adjusting feature on the three of them and how they work, you can see here on the Knipex, it just has this one lever right here. You have this mechanism. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as your just regular Cobra that you have. You're not going to see much difference in the look of it or anything like that. And they just function really well. And basically, as you go from different sizes, I can just take this. I'm grabbing a hold of that. Once I click it in, it kind of grabs. I let loose. I don't have to do anything else at that point. If I want to step up to something else, stick it in there, grab, go on up even bigger than that. Of course, this is not something you might would grab with a pair of channel locks, but even as I grab a hold of that PVC fitting right there, I don't have to do any button pushing or anything like that that you would do, or if you had a pair of alligator pliers, you know, adjust them like that. But even with this one, I've got to still press this button. I got to find that correct size. The Knipex does that automatically for you. I absolutely love that one on the here. So you get over into the Gearwrench, how it works, it's not exactly the same. So you have this mechanism right here that slides out, and then as you slide that down and you push forward, that basically puts a pinpoint right there to where it locks it into place. So it is self-adjusting. I can slide on up. It's going to keep sliding until I get to that hex right there, and then that kind of makes a point of tension right there to where it stops. But whenever I want to go to the next size on the Gearwrench, I can't just open it up like I do the Knipex, because in order for it to slide down, I can't get that to slide down unless I open it all the way up, slide it back down. So if I want to go to something bigger, I basically got to open it up all the way, slide it down, and go back and adjust all the way to whatever that next thing is on the, you know, whatever my next fastener is, whether it's a piece of pipe, whatever it is. If there's a different size, I can't just go back and forth like on the Knipex. I can basically open this up, go to this one, small, go to this one, a little bit bigger, go back to this one, small, super fast. Can't do that with the Gearwrench. So how does the Wiha? Is it somewhere in the middle, or is it more like Knipex? I think it's actually more like Knipex, again, at a cheaper price. So again, you just have this mechanism here. So much like the lever on the Knipex where I have to stick my thumb on there, same thing right here. You pull that down, that unleashes the mechanism. You have this one mechanism here, same as kind of this. And as far as operation goes, it operates much like the Knipex. So I can go here to the smaller hex right there. Again, that's kind of probably, it's not crazy tight on there, but it is. And then I can also go from that to the round, snaps that on, holding that in place, go back to the hex. Again, I didn't have to do any kind of full release, full put down. It works very much in the same way as the Knipex. And then again, I can also go all the way up to that PVC fitting right there, back down to the hex. Kind of a one-handed operation, whereas the Gearwrench, unless you really get used to doing it, and like you can maybe do this with one hand in a pinch, but there's really no good way to do it with one hand, because anytime I want to make this go to bigger from a smaller fastener, I have to bring this other hand out and slide that down. You might could do it with their smaller ones, their smaller sizes possibly, but even then it's kind of hard to maneuver and make that go. So these are self-adjusting, they do work, but nowhere near in the same way as the Knipex or as these Wihas. Now, whenever we get into maybe the build finish or build quality, the one thing, like I said, about the Knipex is there's really no moving parts in a way, as far as this is something that's built inside of there. There's no way for really anything to get in there, and other than that, it's just like your standard Cobra. The Wiha, this just seems like it's a little bit not near as stout as the Knipex. I could be totally wrong with that, but just appearance-wise, the lock mechanism's not nearly as joyful to use. Like, it's a little bit awkward with your thumb. It's nowhere near the same as that Knipex right there. That works a lot better. And then also the one thing that I noticed on the Wiha is you've got this exposed spring running down the middle right here that I'm sure over time, dirt and debris, whatever it is, or that could actually even break or whatever it might be. I just feel like build quality wise, I think these Knipex are probably worth the extra money if you pay $30 for these, and you can get these for $50. But if you're getting these for $17.50, I think that's why these are definitely worth more than $16.50 for a pair of these. You can spend $1 more, get the one-handed operation, not have to do that whole sliding it back down, all that kind of stuff. And even so, at $30, I'm not still sure that these aren't better than the $16.50 at this. But I think at $17.50, I would seriously consider these over the Knipex just because of the price in general, and they still function in the same way. But then that also gets you into, well, what if I want a pair of these? Do I still need a pair of regular tongue and groove pliers? Again, whether it's Knipex Cobras or whatever, maybe you carry the Wiha ones, whatever it is, I'm going to suggest to you that you do, just because, for instance, with this pipe right here, and I'm going to show you on the Knipex, but it's the same exact thing on the Wiha. In fact, I'll just show you on the Wiha, if I clamp onto something this big, which typically you're probably going to get a bigger pair of pliers, but you can see how wide my hands are spread out there. That's going to be hard to, keep that closed together, to keep that tension on there. Same thing if I go with the Knipex. You can see how much, my hands are spread out right here. Whereas whenever you get into where you can adjust it, because there's no adjustment as far as right here, this is where I want my hands to be. Whenever you get into the Cobras, I can make it to where if I spread this out and clamp onto it, if I was to, get it up here higher and get it to spread around there, you can see that my hands are still spread out kind of in a similar way, but I can also now adjust that down some, still get a grip onto that, and get my hands a lot closer together. So that's why overall, these are a more useful set of pliers, but it's still very handy to be able to just go back and forth from something big to something small to something medium size without having to do any kind of adjustment. Again, whether you have the Knipex or whether you have these Wihas here that work in the same exact way, I just think overall the auto adjustment is a super nice feature. I would kind of say my recommendation would kind of be buy yourself the next size up. So if you use 7 1/4 pliers, 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to buy 10-inch self-adjusting pliers, because you basically want to use it on smaller stuff so that your hands aren't spread out so far. So sure, it can go up to the 1.5 or the whatever, but you're starting to get your hands up there in an area in which maybe you're not going to be able to use them quite as well. So I would think you'd want to buy a 12-inch size maybe for stuff that you normally would use a 10-inch for, a 10-inch size for stuff you'd normally use a 7 1/4 or 8-inch pair for. But again, it's just still super nice to have a pair of pliers where you can go in and out of somewhere that has different size things that you're dealing with and not have to deal with, you know, adjusting that button, getting it exactly where you want it, or moving to catch it in the alligator mode if that's the kind that you use. But yeah, guys, that's the adjustable auto grip pliers from Wiha, part number 32637, 10-inch version. I don't think they have anything else. I could be wrong with that, but $17.50 on Amazon in comparison to $60 and in comparison to $16.50. I think that this is the best pair of pliers at that $17 range as far as the ones that I've used anyways. There could be some better ones out there, and you can let me know in the comments below if you've got some other self-adjusting plier besides these or the Crescent, because again, I think Crescent and Gearwrench are exactly the same, that you feel like works in the same way as the Knipex and Wiha, but is also a better value. Drop that in the comments below, or if you've owned these and the Knipex and the Gearwrench, throw down your feedback as well. Let us know what you think about them. But again, just letting you know that they're out there and that they're available. Hope you find it useful or helpful in some way, but you guys stay safe. Have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next video.